Hello, fellow educators, and welcome to EduTalk Collaborative Conversations, the show where passionate educators converge to talk about all things teaching. Almost in every episode of EduTalk, we delve into an insightful educational research study, and we hear from a dynamic panel of educators who discuss the study and translate the findings into tangible tools for our everyday endeavors in education. I am your host, Jeni Langfeld, and in today's episode of EduTalk, I'm thrilled to bring you some valuable insights on how to effectively and efficiently read and digest empirical educational research articles. We're going to explore strategies to transform research into practical tools that enhance our daily practices in education. I am thrilled that you are joining me today. You are an important part of this growing community of empowered educators. I believe that we can transform education one conversation at a time. Educational research serves as the foundation upon which transformative and evidence-based teaching practices are built. Research is like a compass. It guides us to new and exciting ways of teaching. It's full of insights and evidence that we need to make smart choices in our classrooms and schools. Now, to be honest, all of those research articles and studies can feel very overwhelming at times. So in today's episode, we're going to dive into how to read empirical educational research and turn it into practical tools that we can actually use in our day-to-day practices in education. In deepening our understanding of this research, we can transform our classrooms and schools into dynamic centers of innovation and growth. To kickstart our exploration of educational research, let's first turn to the insights provided by author and consultant John Almarode. In this valuable video segment, John Almarode delves into the history of John Hattie's renowned visible learning research. It helps demystify how this research translates into actionable strategies that can drive student achievement. In breaking down complex data, Almarode highlights how these research findings can be leveraged to accelerate learning for all students. Foundational knowledge will serve as a practical tool in our quest to enhance educational outcomes and foster collaborative growth within our teaching communities. Let's watch.
Hi, I'm John Almarode, and as a former math and science teacher, I got up every morning looking for the best way to set up my classroom that would result in student learning, the best student learning possible for all of the students in my classroom. While you may not be a science teacher and may not teach mathematics, odds are you and I have very similar questions in the classroom. What really does work best in moving learning forward? This question prompted John Hattie over 25 years ago to dive into educational research and look for the answer, what works best in our schools and classrooms. What resulted was a collection of meta-analyses, a database of educational research that's built from over 1,800 meta-analyses, over 100,000 studies, including over 300 million students, that generated a list of 320 influences on student learning. Why is this so important? What's the benefit of having that type of information at our fingertips? I want you to think back to the last school day where you were in person with your learners. There's a lot happening. There's the drop-off, the pickup, there's the hustle and bustle of the day, there's lunch, there's our planning blocks. There's a lot happening. And so we often don't have time to dig through the body of literature on what we should be doing in our classrooms to promote student learning. The Visible Learning Database does just this. It uses meta-analyses. So what is a meta-analysis? A meta-analysis is a study of studies. Take, for example, this pile of information. Let's say that every book, every article, every journal in this pile was about homework. Should we give homework to students? Should we not give homework to students? What type of homework should we give to students? Should we grade it? Should we not grade it? Do we involve parents or families in the homework task or the homework assignment? You wouldn't have to go far into this pile to find contradictory findings. One study says homework's great, another study turns around and says it's not so good. Some studies say we should involve parents and families, other studies say it should be the student. What about the grading question? You will likely find one that says grading is good and turn right around and find one that says grading is bad. It creates a lot of confusion for us. While there's nothing inherently wrong with the study per se, it does make it difficult for us as teachers in the limited amount of time we have to go through and find the studies we need to inform our decisions in our classrooms. What a meta-analysis does is it takes all of the evidence, puts it together, and then provides an overview or an average of what the research says right now about a particular influence. The example we've been talking about is homework, but there are other things. For example, phonics instruction versus whole language. What about one-to-one laptops? What about the use of clickers? Right now, you may be asking about distance learning education or web-based learning. Those influences all have a body of research behind them or associated with them. The meta-analysis allows me to take a wide-angle view of that particular influence and then use my own professional expertise to decide how to not just identify that influence, but then implement it in the classroom. When working with a meta-analysis, one of the questions you may have is, well, how do you take a group of studies and look at them all together and average them out? Isn't that comparing apples and oranges? It's a good question. Meta-analyses calculate something known as an effect size. An effect size, well, to be quite blunt, is a way to take apples and oranges and compare them using something called a standard deviation. So here's how it works. We take the findings from one study and the findings from another study, and we use a formula to calculate the effect size. Now, there are lots of different ways to calculate an effect size. The Visible Learning Database uses a Cohen's d to calculate effect size. And in a way, it takes away the units. And so the units of comparison are no longer relevant. It does it in standard deviations. So I'm no longer comparing apples and oranges. I'm neither comparing apples nor oranges, but I'm looking at growth through standard deviations. The Visible Learning Database is right at our fingertips. www.visiblelearningmetax.com. When you visit that site, you have access to the 320 influences and the meta-analyses that helped build that database, which means you can go and check this out on your own. One of John Hattie's goals is to make all of this information publicly available. Here's the data. Let's see what it tells us about what we do in our schools and classrooms. What we do know, though, is that the biggest message from the Visible Learning Database and the Visible Learning research in general, learning occurs best when teachers see that learning through the eyes of their students and students see themselves as their own teachers. That's the key behind visible learning. How do we not just use interventions, approaches, and strategies on our learners, but help build their capacity and their skills to take ownership of their learning so they can do it on their own? Do learners know what to do when they don't know what to do and you're no longer their teacher? That should be our aim. That should be our focus. And that's the story behind the visible learning work.
For those of you eager to delve deeper into the work of John Hattie, I highly recommend visiting the Visible Learning website and/or buy the book. Both provide educators comprehensive insights into the impact of teaching practices on student learning outcomes. Having delved into the significance of meta-analysis and identified valuable resources for accessing comprehensive studies, it is now time that we turn our focus to a crucial skill: independently navigating and interpreting empirical educational research. I'm going to break down the process into manageable steps to support you as you approach these studies with confidence and clarity. I want you to first select studies that resonate closely with your unique teaching context. To do so, first consider the grade levels and content areas that you specialize in, which will help you in narrowing down your search. As you search online, I want you to think about the specific needs and interests of the students that you serve. Then you will find research that offers solutions or insights into these facets of your teaching environment. This focus strategy not only simplifies the process of identifying pertinent studies, but also helps to ensure that the research you find will actually enhance the educational experiences that you offer. Once you've identified a study of interest, I want you to take these 8 steps to effectively read and digest its content. Number 1, you're going to start with the abstract. The abstract provides a snapshot of the entire study and includes the research questions, methods, findings, and implications. This section will give you a very quick overview to help you decide if this study is relevant to your needs. If you've read it and find that the abstract is intriguing, the next step is to skip ahead to the sections near the end of the article where you find the study's findings and implications. These sections will provide you with a clear understanding of the research outcomes and their significance for your educational practice. If you determine that these insights resonate with your interests or educational needs, then consider reading the entire article for a comprehensive understanding. Number 2, take notes and make connections as you read. Once you decide to read the entire article, be proactive in your engagement. Highlight key points and/or circle ideas that stand out to you. Record any questions that emerge as you're reading. Look up unfamiliar terms to deepen your understanding. And jot down notes as you make connections to your own educational context. This active approach will enhance your comprehension of the article and assist you in making connections between the research and your own teaching practice. Use these notes later as a reference when discussing the article with colleagues and/or implementing its findings into your classroom practice. All right, number 3, unpack the introduction. This section sets the stage by explaining the study's purpose and highlighting the significance of the research question. It often reviews relevant literature, helping to place the study within a larger academic conversation. When reading the introduction, make note of the research questions as they are the backbone of any empirical study. These questions identify the focus of the research, providing clarity on what the study aims to explore or solve. For example, a question might explore the impact of a new teaching method on student engagement in a particular subject, or evaluate the correlation between classroom technology use and academic performance. Also, as you read the introduction of the article, pay close attention to operational definitions. Operational definitions are important in research studies as they define the central concepts. This is important because these definitions ensure that everyone interpreting the study has a consistent understanding of what is being assessed or observed. Number 4, review the methodology. Knowing how the research was conducted is vital. Look for details about the participants, materials, and procedures used. The research design will help you assess the validity and applicability of the findings. As you immerse yourself in the world of educational research, your familiarity with a variety of methodologies will naturally expand over time. You're going to acquire the skills to evaluate the suitability of these methodologies for various research questions, critically assess their findings, and appreciate the nuanced insights that they offer. Now, don't worry if you don't understand everything in this section right away. Learning to read and use research articles is a process that takes time. With practice, you will become a more confident and informed consumer of educational research, enabling you to make better decisions for your students and elevate your teaching practice. Number 5, analyze the results. The results section shows the data the researchers found. Look at the tables and charts because they will help you see the main findings of the study. These visual aids simplify complex data, making it easier to spot key trends and patterns. Focusing on the details, you can form a better judgment on how useful the study's outcomes are for you and your own teaching needs. And examine the discussion and conclusion. These sections interpret the findings, explore their significance, and suggest areas for future research. Consider how the authors discuss the implications of their findings within the wider educational context. Do they propose new insights or confirm existing theories? Pay attention to any limitations acknowledged by the researchers as these shed light on the scope and reliability of the results. The discussion section often highlights the practical applications of the research, offering potential strategies or interventions that can be integrated into teaching practices. Also look for suggestions for future research, which can inspire your own inquiries or adaptations in your educational setting. Understanding this comprehensive analysis, you can better appreciate the study's contributions to the field and identify how the conclusions might inform your approach to teaching, leading to more effective and innovative practices. Number 7, consider implications for your teaching. As you delve into the study's findings and discussion, assess how the insights gained can be integrated into your classroom practices. Begin by reflecting on any strategies or methods that might positively impact student learning and engagement in your specific context. Identify aspects of the research that align with your existing approaches and consider ways to enhance or modify them based on the study. The study might reveal new techniques for fostering student collaboration, critical thinking, or creativity, offering opportunities for experiential learning activities or differentiated instruction. Furthermore, think critically about any limitations noted in the research and how this could influence your implementation, ensuring that you adapt insights in a way that is feasible and relevant to your environment. By thoughtfully applying these research-based strategies, you can enrich your teaching practices, thereby improving student outcomes and achieving educational goals more effectively. And last but not least, number 8, engage in discussion. Engaging in discussion with colleagues about educational research is an invaluable opportunity to deepen your understanding and uncover new perspectives. By collaboratively evaluating the key takeaways and personal reflections from various studies, you can assess their potential impact on your teaching practices as a group. Engaging in open dialogue allows educators to challenge assumptions, share diverse insights, and explore innovative applications of research findings. This collaborative approach not only fosters a shared learning culture, but also enhances the collective ability to implement effective teaching strategies that cater to diverse student needs, continually linking research to real-world contexts. You and your colleagues can drive meaningful improvements in both teaching and learning experiences. In case you haven't noticed, this is the whole premise of EduTalk Collaborative Conversations. EduTalk seeks to be more than a TV show. We are on a mission to create a platform where research intersects real-world practice, stimulating a dialogue that inspires educators everywhere and transforms education one conversation at a time. In our final segment of this episode, we're going to delve into a practical example to demonstrate this process. So stay tuned, we'll be right back. We want to shine a light on the heroes of education. There's a lot of them. Do you know an educator who's making a positive impact in their school, community, or district? You can recognize them by nominating them for our monthly Educator Spotlight. Each month we will feature one inspirational educator who's altering the academic landscape for the better. In other words, they're making a difference. Help us celebrate their exceptional contributions to learning and leadership by nominating them today. Welcome back to EduTalk Collaborative Conversations, your platform for engaging educational dialogue. I am your host, Jenny, and I'm so glad that you're with us. In this episode, we've walked through the process of how to go about reading an empirical educational study, and now we're going to look at a quick example. After doing an online search about topics important to me, I found this article that we explored in a previous episode of EduTalk. The title of the article was "The Role of Teacher Leadership and How Principals Influence Classroom Instruction and Student Learning." The first thing I did was read the abstract, and here is what that said. School principals can play an important role in promoting teacher leadership by delegating authority and empowering teachers in ways that allow them influence in key organizational decisions and processes. It is unclear whether instruction and student learning are enhanced by promoting teacher influence in all aspects of school organization, or whether it is better for principals to directly work on certain processes while delegating influence on others. We compare pathways from principal leadership through school organizational processes to student outcomes that include teacher influence as a mediating factor to pathways that do not include teachers' influence. Our results suggest that effective principals use teacher leadership to improve the school learning climate while they work directly on professional development and school program coherence. After reading that abstract, I was intrigued to read more, so I jumped to the end of the article to read the findings and results section. And here is what I found. Leaders might influence student learning through many paths, but only a few make a significant difference for student achievement growth. If principals neglect one path in favor of another, they may not have much of a total effect. That was enough for me to know that I wanted to read the entire article, so I settled in with a printed copy and a pen and began annotating the article, highlighting key points and making notes in the margins as I worked through each section. This hands-on approach allowed me to actively engage with the material, enhancing my own comprehension of the information. By marking significant ideas, asking questions, and jotting down connections, I was able to critically analyze the content and connect it to my personal leadership and teaching experiences. This process also helped me identify areas of the study that were particularly relevant to my context, enabling me to visualize practical applications of the research findings. As we wind down today's episode, I hope this discussion has been helpful and has sparked your interest in diving deeper into educational research. This 8-step approach we explored today for engaging with empirical studies can be a valuable tool as you seek out articles that capture your interest following this method. You can enhance your own understanding and find ways to apply insightful research to your teaching practices by exploring topics that are personally significant to you, and leverage the process we've explored today to thoroughly analyze and implement the findings. As always, the journey of learning and growing is an ongoing process, and each study you engage with can be a new step toward enriching your own educational practice. And perhaps, most importantly, seek out a colleague or a group of peers to discuss the study with. These collaborative conversations enrich the learning process and bring diverse perspectives. They enhance our understanding, and it fosters a community of continuous learning and innovation. Collaborative effort helps us translate complex research findings into practical strategies that can be implemented effectively within our own unique educational environments. Thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of EduTalk Collaborative Conversations. Be sure to join me in the next episode, because together we can transform education one conversation at a time.
Please note that the opinions and views expressed by the host and panelists on this show are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of their employers or affiliated organization.